We all know that the presidency ages you. Just look at what George W. Bush and Obama looked at before and after they had 2 terms. I wonder what President Sanders would look like after 2 terms. I find it increasingly ironic that people can actually stand by this absolute crud that Sanders is preaching. To be fair, people did not flee East Berlin to the point where they had to construct a wall blocking off West Berlin. No one is fleeing Cuba to escape socialism there. The fact remains, people have been fleeing communist and socialist nations for years. Many of them tell horror stories about socialist nations. A simple internet search will yield countless results. Oh, and remember that Nazi is short for National Socialism. I can already see the comment section filling up with people saying that socialism is not democratic socialism. One is by military takeover and the other is not. Technically, a military takeover is communism and all socialism is by vote. However, the problem is not so much in linguistics, but with what socialism is. Socialism is government control over the economy, which leads to massive shortages because a government bureaucrat cannot figure out what is best for a business because he does not see the day-to-day operations. Likewise, this is the same reason that price floors and ceilings make things worse. For all intents and purposes, Sanders is a businessman. He pays his employees to do things like campaign on his behalf or manage his schedule. Naturally, this money comes from him to these employees. Sanders wants to enact a federal legislation to make the minimum wage $15 an hour. However, you could cut the liberal hypocrisy with a butter knife. He pays his interns $12 an hour. So if this is not good enough for his business, therefore, how does he know what is good enough for the rest of us? Now, as with all liberals, he thinks that the rich do not pay their fair share. However, I do not see any big leftist millionaires and billionaires that are preaching this, just giving up all their wealth and giving it to the poor and marginalized. In fact, there have been several studies that show that conservatives are more generous. However, there is another issue in play here. I am going to give you 2 scenarios, and I want you to tell me how they are different. Paul is down on his luck and is having trouble paying his bills and does not have enough money to eat. You have paid all of your bills, and you give him some extra money to help him through the week. Paul is down on his luck and is having trouble paying his bills and does not have enough money to eat. You go down to Peter's house and break into his house and steal his wallet. You take the money from the wallet and give it to Paul. One is the Christian approach, and the other is the government approach. Simply put, people who say that conservatives are not generous because they do not want government welfare is hypocrisy incarnate. If you rob Peter to pay Paul, you can always count on Paul's vote. Are the 1% paying their fair share? The federal government is in debt at $19 trillion. To even come close to making a dent in this debt ditch, the problem is not more money, but less spending. How about we start by cutting spending? We let people keep their paycheck and not take it from them. One more thing. Sanders wants to expand Obamacare and put in more socialism. There's a fine for not buying insurance. Problem: Joe the plumber cannot afford insurance. Solution: we will put a fine in place until he buys insurance. Only in the world of liberals can taking people's money and then giving it back to them count as generosity. However, if you think that Sanders is bad, do not even get me started on Trump.